This meeting is being recorded.
Segment 3, Gold and Black Live. This meeting is being recorded, and we appreciate Peyton Stovall taking the time to join us. He has been a once or twice a year visitor to Gold and Black Live, and we're grateful for that. Peyton Stovall does not need any introduction to not only Purdue fans, but also Lafayette area folks, having been a star at Lafayette Jeff in Ball State, and has gone on to be the athletic director at Jeff before getting the opportunity at Purdue. Hard to believe it's been 3 years, my friend. The fact that you're the associate AD for student athletic development. Does it seem 3 years like 3 years to you?
It goes by fast. Time can slow, I'll tell you that. But the COVID year kind of made it feel like 10.
Yeah, I think we're all still trying to figure out what year it really is. It is 2022. It is November the 18th, and it's an exciting time. Obviously, your job is student athlete development and working closely with them. But let's talk a little bit about the fun stuff, which are the games. And not that your job isn't fun and interesting, but we obviously are all into the competition. You watch the men's basketball team play Tuesday night. Good guard play when you see it. Basketball play when you see it, of course, with your great career at Ball State, et cetera. But this is a young team with some really interesting parts to it. Give us your evaluation of what we see out of Matt Painter's crew.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Paint and his staff, still one of the best coaching staffs in the country. Continue that. Probably most unappreciated, right?
Yeah.
At times. I get to watch, sometimes I go in there and watch practice, and I still think to myself, like, man, if I just had the opportunity to play for Paint for a week, I think, I'd have a different type of career, right?
Yeah.
That's how good he is, but and what guys learn from him. So I'm excited about this young team, man. Like, this is a good basketball team. And, I venture to say one of our better teams that we've really had, just in terms of overall talent and guys coming in and out with the ability to put up buckets and defend well and just play together. Right. Yeah. I think that being a team can take you a long way. And I think this is a true team. We talk about the guard play. I'm so impressed with our backcourt. This is the first time I've really felt truly comfortable with, our point guard. I saw Braden Smith just, and it shocked me a little bit, but I saw him, want the ball, like in the backcourt, deep in the backcourt, and ask for it, and then go ahead and clear everybody out. When I saw I got this, I said, we've got ourselves a player. So I'm excited about everybody, all the pieces around. I mean, Flesh, the kid can shoot it. He's going to be a great shooter for us, but we've got all kinds of young guys that, either, talking about our sophomore class or juniors. Obviously Edie is tough. But we've got guys that are willing to put in the work. I mean, I saw Caleb first. I mean, big fella, almost diving out of bounds for a ball.
Yeah.
They're willing to do the work, and they're willing to do it for each other. I think that's Purdue basketball at its best.
Yeah, David Dinkins Jr. would be a good guy to have to check at noontime basketball, wouldn't he? He just reminds me of a garbage guy that, obviously I saw him play a little at Utah, but love his game. And again, he's that perfect, it appears, with Braden Smith and David Jenkins Jr. You've got two guys with attitudes that they are going to bring it well, I think, for Purdue this year.
Yeah, David. I mean, the kid can get going anytime. He can get hot, and I think that's an addition that is very nice to have, especially when the clock starts rolling down. That shot clock starts going down. You need to get a bucket. He's one that can go get one by himself.
Yeah, you are maybe old enough to remember the microwave Vinnie Johnson from the Detroit Pistons fame when played Isaiah. I don't know if you at least remember from a historical standpoint. He's got some of those same qualities. He's just, at least a little I've seen, I really like him. And you're right, a great blend of that. And part of what you do, and obviously student athlete development, when you work with with student athletes. It's part of their psyche is how well they're doing on the field, the court, the classroom, in their life on down the line. But one thing I think is really interesting is just how, you were a young guy and came in and played right away at Ball State and had that opportunity. But it doesn't seem to matter anymore whether they're freshmen, sophomores, juniors. Braden Smith might as well be a senior the way he acts. But I mean, they come in ready to play. Is that what you see on down the line? Is that a new thing, or is that just the way things are today?
Yeah, I think there's definitely been a shift since I've played. I mean, you kind of waited your turn on some things when you're in high school. Now at high school, I mean, freshmen are playing varsity off out of the gates.
Yeah.
And so they're playing with upperclassmen all throughout their high school and youth sports. And so they get here like, hey, I've been playing with some of the best. I know I can hang. I've got a certain amount of confidence and an amount of toughness. I think we see that out of some of our young guys is, they believe that they belong. And a lot of that's the work that you put in. And that, Painter has felt like, over the summer, they put in a lot of hard work and you build confidence off of knowing that you've done your due diligence to create that foundation that you can have that confidence down the road. So I think that's a big part of guys getting in there and being scrappy and playing hard.
Yeah, I don't think Braden is short on confidence. It's not arrogance, though. I think it's at least again, I'm only watching body language. Him and you've been around him, but when I'm watching body language, it's brash, but it's confident. But he backs it up and he doesn't overdo it. He says he got that. I think it's a very unique quality that will be fun for Purdue fans to watch over the next 4 years. That whole group as well. All right, when you talk about your role and you come to Purdue in July of 2019, then you have a little thing called COVID, which is set everybody, from a psychological perspective, just having to deal with that. How is that as we've come out of the pandemic, and you're dealing with giving opportunities and working closely with Purdue student athletes? How do you feel like everybody's kind of progressing through that and kind of starting to work to reconcile and get things kind of back to normal?
Yeah, our student athletes are resilient. At Purdue, and when we come out of COVID, we also jumped right into the NIL immediately. So it was like, hey, college athletics is entirely different than it was before COVID, pre-COVID, and post. It's where our student athletes have adapted, but like I said, they're resilient. So they've said, here's where we are, here's where we want to go, and we're trying to do our best to help our student athletes get to where they want to go, meeting them where they are, and then preparing them, for the life after sport. But then also, because NIL is so real and it's here, we've got to prepare them right now. Right. So the little things that we're trying to do to make sure that we're ready to go is continuously helping our student athletes when it comes to just etiquette, when it comes to, email, interactions with folks, because for a while there it was, just a lot of Zoom, of Zoom calls where they didn't have that in-person, person-to-person building those relationships. You had to do it through technology. So being able to, get back to some of the basics of interpersonal skills. That's one thing we're working on with our kids to make sure that they're conquering that as well. But also not forgetting that now Zoom and technology is very much integrated in everything that we do, from student athlete perspective to our business perspective, right? So we're making sure that they're prepared in every aspect of their life. And then one thing that's really important is obviously the financial literacy, with them making some financial jumps. And then making sure that they take care of it, and with the taxes and things like that end up coming up. We want to make sure that when Uncle Sam comes knocking and says, "Hey, we had a great year," that they know how to take care of their funds. So those are little things that we're trying to chip away at, knowing that they're extremely busy, and that they have to focus on their academics, their athletics, but then also the social life. Is very important, mental health, but to be able to prepare in all aspects is something we lean on.
Yeah, you got nothing going on, man. There's nothing to, there's a walk in the park. I mean, what does a typical day look like? Because NIL and that is a constant moving target, maybe just starting to settle to some extent, but probably when it settles, something will change. But I mean, what does a typical day look like when you have, I mean, from your standpoint, you have student athletes and others trying to organize. Is there a typical day, and do you have typical questions? Is it more financially driven right now, or is it more, how do I kind of run my business, my brand? I mean, how does that work from your standpoint?
I'm very fortunate to be in the position that I am in. I've got an absolutely amazing team. We've got Paul Leaf. He's our assistant director. Does a lot of our professional development, kind of leadership with our core group of student athletes who have the voice for our student athletes. Does a lot of work with them, their career, touching base there. Also with Candace Britton, she's a Purdue grad as well, assistant director. A lot of the work she does with just the mental health and make sure students are connected. We're doing that on a daily. And then our new team member, Christian Carr, who comes to us from Mississippi State. Like, she's our senior coordinator, but is really helping with the community service, understanding that it's important to get invested in your community and impact your youth. And then helping with the diversity and inclusion. So there's a lot of things that are going on around our area that are helping our student athletes, but that's kind of what our day-to-day looks like. But we're getting a lot of questions from student athletes. They want to know, what do I need to do in order to be successful in this branding myself, building my brand, authentically, organically. And we're trying to bring in some folks that can help them with that. Obviously, Cranard's been awesome for us. They're one of the best in the country at building brands in terms of what they've done with Purdue, university overall. So them assisting, hey, this is what it looks like to be entrepreneur, or to be the boss at the table. And this is what you need to do to build around yourself. So you're sitting at the head of the table, take lead, and this is what it looks like. So we're having fun with it.
All right. So when you get on that elevator there at the top of the steps in Mackey, and you have 40 seconds with a student athlete, what is that elevator speech to them in terms of when they come in? Because to me, it could be really overwhelming. I mean, in terms of just all the things that get thrown at them, in addition to having to be the best on the field of competition.
Yeah, that's a great question. And, as we see them in the hallways too, and we get an opportunity to talk to any of our student athletes, the very first thing that we ask is, how you doing?
Yeah.
Right. How you doing? And that's the one thing we want to try to, for our space, try to separate everything else and just see each other as people. And I think that's the thing that maybe our student athletes appreciate probably the most, is we see them out there, and we see them out there on their fields, on the courts, on the links, wherever it may be. That yes, you are a student athlete, but you're a person first. How are you? And I think that's what we try to get down to the base of. And then, if they have questions, or we can help them when it comes to NIL, we try to do that too. So we have a new hire here. And Jack Gallagher, he's an outstanding individual. He's doing some great things when it comes to NIL, but he's getting great leadership from, I don't know if you had a chance to talk to our deputy AD, our new deputy AD, and Tiffany Grimes, but she's bringing some fresh ideas from Alabama, right? And I like to tell people, she left Alabama to come here, right?
True.
There's a lot of people doing a lot of great work. Our core group, Tom Mitchell with compliance, he doesn't just wear the compliance hat, puts on different hats to help our student athletes. His whole team does that same thing. And so very much we're trying to do our best to get out of the silos of our departments, so that way we can better serve our student athletes. And, we're going to continue to do that.
Yeah, we had Tiffany on the show maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. Enjoyed having the opportunity to meet her, and yes, she is impressive. But I think one of the things both of you bring, and a lot of the folks that I have the opportunity to deal with in the department, is that sense of, all right, how are you? Calm. Yeah. You just can't. Everything can't be a fire, so to speak. Is that a big part of that? Bringing that to you? I mean, it seems to me to be your natural demeanor. We're not we're take it one step at a time, but that's got to be a big part of what you try to get done.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think what Purdue's always kind of hung their hat on is one, doing it the right way, and then we don't always have to be the first to the mic on a bunch of stuff. We can watch from afar, see, hey, is this the best way to to execute? And if it is, let's do it and do it better. Right. And so I think that's what the approach we've kind of had when it comes to NIL. And just us working across the aisle with our Boilermaker Alliance, the collective, and just continuously educating them on how they can better serve student athletes. So I think that's their goal. Their goal over there is to make sure that every single student athlete is supported in some capacity, and they have the number one thing in mind, and that's how can we take we'll use a celebrity status or just them as a student athlete to impact this community on a large scale, and really start to invest in each other. And I think that's what the Boilermaker Alliance is doing with our student athletes. They're just investing in the kids that are investing in youth, and that's what's going to make us better from within.
Yeah, Jared Thomas and Jeff McKean certainly bring that to the table. How often, what's a typical week of correspondence with them or working with them? And of course, Jared and Jeff with the Boilermaker Alliance, but is that a weekly touch? Is that a daily touch? How does that seem to work in your workflow?
Yeah, it's pretty often. I'd say a couple times a week, just conversations, and a lot of it is just hey, we want to make sure that we're able to do this. Is this permissible? Can we do these things? And we'd rather that than them go rogue and do something on their own that could potentially put someone at risk or the university at risk. So that constant conversation, we trust in the Boilermaker Alliance, and we've endorsed them because we truly do believe that they have the best intentions for our student athletes and for the university at whole. But we have to make sure that we're always protecting Purdue University, and that's why we're all here, right? And so that constant conversation is what's been what I think unique across the country. Is just the type of relationship we do have with them without having institutional involvement, if that makes sense.
Yeah, being genuine, I think, is the key thing for you guys, and you come off that way, and that's an important attribute to have in all your relationships. All right, I asked Mitch Daniels in the last segment the same question I'm going to ask you. Okay. So you got something in common with the president.
Any answers here?
No, I know your answer will be right, but it'll be an interesting managing change and how you do that. You may be president of Purdue University someday, who knows, but you're a little bit younger than Mitch, but in a different phase of your professional career. But how have you learned to manage change? Because there's so much of that. Whether, what we've just talked about in this interview, but what are some of your fundamental tenets of what you do when you think about trying to manage change?
Yeah, for me, I've always been this way. It's just the glass is always half full for me. Yeah. And then just putting people around you that you feel strongly about that will help you, and that you can trust. And I think that's the key part for me is, trusting that someone wants to help me and wants to help me be great. Is going to push me to be great. Yeah. And those get me out of my comfort zones. I think that's what we try to push our student athletes is be comfortable being uncomfortable. So that way you can reach your maximum potential. So those are things that, when we talk about change, be okay with change, because change is good.
Yeah. All right. You passed the test, my friend. So
all right.
You didn't know this was going to be like a job interview. I always feel like, I'm not interviewing you for a job. I'd hire you if I had the chance. Don't get me wrong there. So, hey, Peyton, thanks so much for your time. And we'll look forward to tomorrow's big showdown in Ross-Ade Stadium. That vest will come in handy if you're outside. Right. It's going to be one of the coldest games in recent memory in Ross-Ade Stadium, but it promises to be a very competitive football game, and big things could be in store for the Boilermakers if they can get through the next 2 weeks. But as you say, it's one possession at a time, right? And if you do that, you got a chance. All right, Peyton, have a great Thanksgiving to you and your family as well. Thanks for taking the time to join us, and want to thank our sponsors, Triple X on the Hill, but on the level of Purdue tradition since 1929. I'm guessing Peyton's been there a time or two in his life. And State Farm agent Trent Johnson of TrentIsMyAgent.com. We want to thank also Scott Sumner, I should say, Gordon Jackson, Mary Truax, and the folks at WLFI for making this happen. We will not have a show next week. We will have one in December. We'll be talking about Purdue's bowl, where they're going, and that will be an interesting story in its own right. But have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next time on Gold and Black Live.
Boiler up.